Hey guys, it's Terry the Tiger with you live. We're here at the Zak Bagans Haunted Museum. We're gonna go ahead and check it out. Supposedly has most haunted stuff out. We'll see. We got protection with us. That shit's real. So I'll show you as much as I can before phones are no longer allowed. So it has supposedly some haunted stuff from movies and other various stuff. And over here, over here is an extension that they're planning to add. We have stuff like that in the windows, things like that. So my cousin, who's already been here, says that they have a spot, a basement, that supposedly not even the employees want to go down. So we are going to go ahead and check that out too. Let you know everything, what we experienced, what we feel. Supposedly the waiver stated that they're not responsible in case of death, possession, if spirit attaches to you, or if anything crazy of that sort of phenomena happens to you. So I will let you know if I get something attached. Hey guys, we're going.
Someone will come grab you, okay?
Perfect.
Have fun.
By the way, if you have a COVID mask thing, take your card everywhere, because apparently you could no mask. Because she has proof. I don't. God damn it. Going in, we got the gargoyles right over here.
Alrighty, my loves, curl up right over here. Get in the shade so that way the sun doesn't burn you up as well. Now, we got some people with masks. Make sure if you have a wristband, you making sure you smile, okay? Some people are vaccinated, some people are not. Let's make sure we have a safe and healthy, scary, good time. So if you don't have your wristband, make sure you keep the mask above your nose. Now, first up, welcome to the Haunted Museum. You are at a historic 1938 built mansion, a two-door style mansion by Cyril Wenger, who actually was a prominent figure here in our Las Vegas area in the 30s. He went on to go on and start our Nevada energy program. Now he built this home for his lovely family of 5, but only 4 children actually ended up coming in. Young boy James was actually passed away around the age of 7 before the family occupied the home, but all the rest of the family has seen James's spirit roaming around these halls. In the late 70s, early 80s, the Nevada Bar took over, added the second wing in the partition in the back half of the house, and they also reported satanic activity downstairs in the basement. So now, my darlings, and now when Zach put his haunted and cursed objects, that's when everything exploded. And now that's where you come in to enjoy. Now we do have a few rules before we head on in. Now there is no outside food or drinks, no gum, no recording devices. You can take all the photos you want, take a few cute photos inside. You're gonna have to power your phones off before you head inside the museum. It does interfere with the paranormal equipment. You don't want these entities in your phone. Some of you are maybe doing RIP, some of you may be doing general admission. There are 33 rooms in total in this 33,000 square foot home. You may have the opportunity to go through all of them. If you want to upgrade, you will have the opportunity inside of the lobby, okay? Make sure you use the bathroom in the lobby before we head on in, because we ain't gonna pull the car over for you. All right, my darlings, any questions before we head inside? You excited?
Yep. Let's do this. I'm gonna go ahead and get this adventure time going, all right? Go ahead and tell you all my experiences, everything that I encounter, anything that happens. I'll go ahead and make sure you hear everything that I experience.
All right, can we shoot you? Oh. All right. Stand in line right kind down. Make sure you check in with Miss Alder.
We've got
Thank you, guys.
stuff here, guys.
Thank you, baby. Make sure you check
Stuff
in
like
with
this. Definitely want to go check out the doll room.
You're all good?
Joe blew it. Watch the casket open. Devils appear. Joe keeps on drinking from the ever-present. Like I said, guys, go ahead and let you know how real this is, and if I come in contact with anything, if anything happens to anybody we're with, I will keep you in the loop. I'll be back later. Hey guys, so we just left, and we'll be honest, inside it felt heavy. There are certain rooms that felt heavier than others. The room with Peggy's doll, I felt the most heaviness in there. It felt like it was a lot of gravity just around me, and just once I got next to that doll, it just felt like all pressed up. It was cool, really fun. I would definitely suggest doing that again. I would go again. Maybe do a couple more stuff I didn't do, but very heavy. Felt very heavy inside. Feels nice to breathe.
There are things in this world that we will never fully understand. We want answers. So tonight, on Halloween, for the first time in nearly a decade, we're broadcasting live from my museum in Las Vegas, a building that is truly haunted.
I've been scratched.
I have this really ugly feeling.
I've had my hair pulled. I've been burned.
Get ready, anything can happen. This is Ghost Adventures, the Haunted Museum, live.
This number of the 75,000 people that have stepped down its hallways.
I had felt anxiety throughout at that point, but that's when it really got a hold of me the whole rest of the way. So it was a pretty terrifying moment.
Never before has such a massive collection of occult artifacts been assembled under one roof, and their combined energy has produced unexplained sightings, hauntings.
I felt like if someone just grabbed my lungs and just squeezed. I really felt possessed.
Occurrences.
As soon as I walked in there, it was like, I had this really ugly feeling.
And physical and mind-altering attacks.
Something punched me in the gut. I felt like a quarterback getting sacked. It just was an awful feeling. I didn't like it.
Pretty much daily occurrences of activity that is unexplainable. It's kind of part of the job.
There is definitely some sort of mental preparation you need to take before you come through the museum.
The fear of these guests has permeated every corner of the museum and energized these objects to even greater heights of paranormal power.
So first off, I want to say thank you for the free shirt. It's what you get if you do the RIP access tour. So thank you. And it was crazy, let me tell you. I went in there with my rosary, like I showed, and I believe in this stuff. And when you first go into it, they get you into the living room of that house, and you're able to walk into this room. It's the doll room. I mentioned that. And in the doll room, they have shelves as if it was like a library of books, but of dolls. They said that he put them all in this one room because there was so much activity in those dolls that when he had them spread throughout the house, that pretty much it caused havoc and mayhem throughout the house. And so to protect everybody, he put it in one room. And when I walked into that room, I looked all the way around, made eye contact with 3 of the dolls. One of them was like a stuffed doll with like no eyes, kind of. It was like a button. I don't know. It was weird. I immediately got a headache and I left the room. I had to. went across the room because we went back into, it was back into the family living room. When I went back into that room, I went to this glass desk that had some stuff in it. And she begins talking about that desk once everybody goes into the doll room. And they mention how Zak had a friend over and he was in the room looking at that desk, and all of a sudden his left leg couldn't move. And he's like, dude, what? I can't move my leg. I can't move my leg. So Zak took a picture of that situation. And in the picture, it showed a hand, like an arm. But, you know, you looked closely, you could see the fingers coming out of the arm. And it looked like it was grabbing onto him. He said he couldn't move his foot. So I was joking around, like I said, and because I do believe in this stuff. And I was standing next to that when she was talking about the story. And I turn and I look at the picture. And I go, oh, what? That smudge? And the second I say that, my left foot, because the way I was standing, I was like leaning over with my right, and so my left was, you know, up. I feel this type of touch around my leg, like that. And I just stayed there for a second. One of the guy on the tour was with me. He looked at it, and I was like, oh yeah, do you see the finger sticking out? And I still felt that tingle in my leg. So I walked away to the other side, and I had to get away. Another time, shortly after, in a different room, there was this cult room, I guess. They killed themselves. There were severed heads. There were real skeletons and all of that. And during that time, she said, go ahead and show your respect. Well, me being me, that's doing the sign of the cross. And I did that in the room. Grabbed my rosary, which is blessed, and I got a headache right here in this head. Just couldn't. And the second I did it, I'm telling you, the second it was like, it hurt for a little hurt, you know. Then that happened again. We went into another room. It was about, she said something about the dead. I was kind of talking to somebody, so I didn't hear what she said, but she was talking about the dead, and we were supposed to be quiet in that room. So when we walked through, she was like, make sure you show some respect some way. So I did the sign of the cross again, and immediately, just, it hurt. And there was a couple of rooms where I went into them, and we were standing in there, and before the story was told, before they started talking, we were just standing in there. I got dizzy. Like, I started seeing it spin, and I got all dizzy and twisted, and apparently that happened. It happens, and that happened twice. In 2 rooms specifically, where I had to grab onto my cousin because of how dizzy I was actually getting. I wasn't trying to show it or anything like that. So didn't tell my cousins any of these experiences until afterwards. And afterwards, it turns out we all had our own different type of situation experiences with this house on the tour. It was a 2-hour tour. So with the RIP access, it was longer. It was really fun, totally worth it. Super creepy. But those were like some of the hardcore experiences that I felt outside of some of the main attractions, because there were so many rooms and there was so much exhibits that constantly, after that doll room, I constantly started feeling like I was being watched. Just constantly. And then there was times where I had to just pick my arms up because I got into certain rooms where I was just like, could not breathe. It just was, it felt heavy in that room. It just felt like there was gravity just everywhere. And it was crazy. It was crazy. It was cool. They do have a tour, a flashlight tour, where you could go at night and you could pretty much roam and do your own thing. I would definitely want to do that, because there is so much artifacts and so much different things in there that he has purchased that supposedly is haunted, that is not haunted, that some of it is just really interesting. Like, there was this hallway that had this case full of just magnificent things that I was totally interested in, seen them before, and just wanted to, see a little bit more of. But yeah, definitely something to check out. If you're not a believer, I had a cousin go in there and he came out a believer. He was talking all this crap, and what I was told, he was saying, nah, this is not real. He went in, experienced it himself, and he's a believer. So, if you do believe, this is a place for you to go. Las Vegas, the Honda Museum.
Such as a ritualistic goblet and locks of hair. But what was meant to be a form of remembrance and mourning instead drew forth and now contains something so unimaginably evil that a previous owner kept it buried deep underground for 5 long years, away from human contact, since encounters with the box have been known to result in lives utterly ruined or even ended prematurely.
I have witnessed the power of the Dybbuk Box. I feel it almost every time.
People act very odd in that room. It's a force that you can't even reckon with. I feel dizzy when I walk in, and there's just something that pulls me towards that box.
I took no more than 2 steps through the threshold. I immediately saw what looked like an old hag. I couldn't see her face. It was a little too distorted, but she was looking directly at me. The common theme that happened with both owners, Jason and Kevin, they have seen an old hag in a reoccurring nightmare.
One of our guests walked in and she started swiping her arms. She said, I feel like something is touching my arms. Next thing I know, her mother yells, oh my God, she's passing out. And she went like this, and her eyes went in the back of her head. And then she completely lost consciousness.
The family said she was fine, but when she got in there, she just fell right on the ground. She was done.
I think it maybe zeroed in on her from the very beginning, and it picked on her.
Apparently, they said, 2 weeks before we showed up, that they were, because they have cameras everywhere, because as you can see, if something happens while on a tour or whatever, no one's there, they will record it and have it captured and they'll show it. That's part of the waiver. When you sign the waiver, that's part of the deal, that if something like that happens to you, they're not liable. So in this room, they were recording it, and they said that 2 weeks ago, a puff of smoke came out of the box. And the box, in the smoke, when they looked at it and used their equipment, there was a pair of eyes that were this really bad demon that, I can't remember the name, but I do know that that name is a very bad demon. And so when we got there, because if you've seen how in that video there was people who were standing around the box and it was inside of a little glass thing, well, they had now another big box, a wooden box that had glass, and on the glass it had in Hebrew a scripture of some protection scripture to try to help ease the demon, and probably blessed it. And so when we went in there, initially, when you first walk in there, you feel like there's some, I mean, you know there's something, and you see the thing in the middle, but you feel like there's someone in the middle. And it wasn't until we walked around it, and in the corner there's like this little shrine thing where people have left the stuff to like kind of help it. I don't know. So I seen chapstick and just some money and some other stuff, some other, like some rosary, some stuff. So I had this little pendant that I had blessed, had the hands on it, and I was taking it out of my wallet, and I was one of the last people in there. The tour had moved on to the next room. Everybody had moved on. My cousin had just put something in there, and she and her boyfriend left, and I was putting the thing on there, and I was the only person in there. And when I was in there by myself, I just felt like this present, like, just zone in on me. Like, get out of here. Like, it didn't want me in there. Like, and then I put it up there, and I dropped something, and the tour guide was like, oh, let's go, let's come on. And she scared me because they're all wearing black, and she just came back out of nowhere. And so I left. That was a weird room.
At the time, it had been left in a state of lonely decay, and it was there, in the basement, that Rachel discovered something truly terrifying.
The first thing I saw was a pentagram on the floor, and then there was a circle around that pentagram, and I also saw blood drops.
The remnants of those rituals, they stay.
When I say that I felt like things were watching us, or watching me, it was like a new set of eyes in every room that you went into. And going down into the basement was no different. When we went down into the basement, it was a cousin, me, cousin, boyfriend, 2 people. And once we got to the bottom of the staircase, I heard a little voice saying, hello. Just kept going down there. Just felt, just watching, just staring. Just walked around the little cult thing. Just went up onto the next thing.
Scratches on it.
Every time I lead my group in and I look off to the side, I always will see the same little girl wearing a white dress. She doesn't say anything, but she just stands there and she stares. Another coworker of mine had mentioned to me that it possibly could be the spirit of Lily, our doll that we have in the oddities room.
Lily, an 1800s German doll with real human hair, was found in a chest by an antique dealer in Salem, Oregon. A young girl who visited his antique shop said that Lily spoke to her and revealed she was a little girl who was subjected to extreme violence.
Ever since Lily came into the museum, the energy's kind of shifted. I've had these dreams about this man and this little girl, and he's pulling the hair out of her head. The blood is just dripping down this little girl's face. He's sewing this bloody hair into this doll, and it's Lily. I believe it's a little girl that's inside of Lily, who doesn't understand why she's inside of Lily.
Like I said, I got a 20. There was a long hallway, and then there was like a room. And there was some cool stuff on this side, so I'm not gonna lie, I was listening, I was paying attention and trying to read some of the stuff that was in there. And Lily was in a room with some other thing. I can't remember what it was, but it was something that had a bad thing attached to it. And they said they had it in the basement, but they had to move it back up here because they didn't jive together down there, and so the best place was to keep it up here. And so when you walked into that room with her, she was a presence, like, that was there, staring. I was in there with that couple, and we were just looking at her eyes and her hair. It was really creepy. But the presence from that other thing behind us, because that's how it was just, they were like, it was like a child, because she was a child, and like this adult figure, but it wasn't a bad thing. Like, I don't know, this room wasn't as bad, but it was pretty creepy because she was just, the doll itself felt like it was staring, like the head was moving, but it wasn't.
Whose name is withheld to protect her identity, believed that demons were coming through these very machines to slowly kill her, and that they were taking over her body in the final moments of her life. Witnesses have said the woman was found dead, surrounded by the very devices that you see here.
This one was that you have to be in there and feel it for yourself, because they said that, you know, that happens. And when we went in there, they had her equipment in it was like a room with a bathroom, and the bathroom was turned into her equipment room, and they had an audio of what they had picked up before from the machines, and you can just hear it. So it was like, just, it was I think it was like made to, like, whenever you walked into the room, you heard it, because like I stood right here and I was just like, stopped hearing it. You know, so I heard stuff like this. I was just like, I don't know about this one. But again, this is the one of those you have to try it for yourself or see it to believe it.
Horrifying and unusual activity within their own home. All three of the children began to behave aggressively, and in one incident, the youngest child literally walked up the wall with several witnesses present. The sheer amount of unexplained activity eventually led a psychic to declare that this house was host to over 200 demons. 3 years later, Zak bought the property in order to investigate it.
I just got the keys to the demon house.
But after the paranormal investigation began to adversely affect the health and mental well-being of his crew and himself, culminating in a debilitating and permanent eye condition, Zak had the house demolished. All that remains is the original staircase from the basement, the dirt floor it was resting in, and the strange ritualistic items that were found buried in that soil, as though used as part of a conjuring or incantation. From the moment Zak first bought the house, friend and psychic Chris Fleming felt concerned. He sent Zak a warning that a 12-foot tall demon was guarding the house and he should stay far away. Chris would soon venture to the site where the demolished home once stood. There, he sensed a strange presence lurking in the dark.
And when you started talking about the dirt and the stairs, I felt a large type entity start to walk up behind my back.
What evil remains attached to these remnants now housed in Zak's museum?
In this room, it was like, because it was obviously just the staircase and some of the dirt from that house brought over to this house in Vegas. The room was like this box type thing, and then it had this window that opened up, and then you were able to see inside of it. And that's where they had the the staircase, and then they had this dirt that was underneath the house because there was a lot of dirt, and then there was like I said, there was a bunch of it said there was a bunch of artifacts of a dresser and some other things. There was a doll on the stairways. It was like a baby doll, and the house was at 74 degrees. When you walked around, you seen that it was 74. The room we were in, it was at 74. Now again, don't know if they illusioned us or what, but that room, because I thought there was a window, a glass there. I stuck my hand out, and it was like when I stuck my hand out, literally, like, I put my hand this much in, and this much forward was like cold. It was like if I put my hand in an ice or a freezer or something like that. It was a real quick thing, and I brought it back in, and it was just like, ooh, a little cold, a little chilly. Warmed it up. So, you know, it says it brought spirits. I don't know, but yeah, that was weird.
Inspired the film Psycho, Silence of the Lambs, and the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. He used this cauldron, found in his home during his arrest, to cook human remains.
A piece of property once owned by one of Wisconsin's most notorious criminals was sold this past weekend to the TV host of Ghost Adventures on the Travel Channel.
The cauldron now resides within the museum, empty, except for whatever unseen force might still cling to the very same surface which once cooked human flesh.
I've been touched in there. Other women have been touched in there. Ed Gein's target was women. So I think he chose to target me.
There's a big casing over the cauldron so that nobody accidentally curses themselves. I leaned up against it for too long one night, went home, and had a very vivid nightmare of being murdered and chunks of flesh getting ripped out of my back. I believe he's still in that room. And he wants to be with his items.
So we were told in this one that that the guys that helped him get it when he bought it, that there was 6 of them and 5 of them died due to the curse of that cauldron. So they do have that protective glass over it so that way you can't get over it. Of course, try to look inside of it so I can see if I can see anything. But definitely had a weird vibe in there. Again, just every room, new eyes. His shovel was on top, so it felt like he was watching from down below. Like he wasn't with the cauldron, he was with the shovel. And that's what I felt watching.
Museum, Peggy continues her assault on the living to this day.
Story about Peggy the Doll.
We have a spirit box in that room that's constantly going, and you have the opportunity to ask Peggy questions. And one guest lean over the railing, politely ask, "Peggy, how are you doing today?" Peggy said in a deep demonic voice, "Die." And as soon as we exited, the woman immediately began to vomit.
The number one rule with dealing with Peggy is don't look at her, don't make eye contact. And when I went in the Peggy room, I definitely broke the rules and caught myself staring at her. Right after that is when I had my first accident. I get T-boned by this car out of nowhere. The last time I was in the room, I caught myself staring at her again, and within 48 hours, boom, I get hit by a semi. And I haven't been back in there since.
She is definitely one of our most dangerous exhibits here in the museum.
I've witnessed at least 4 to 5 nosebleeds in total. They happen out of nowhere. Demon House makes people faint. Peggy gives bloody noses.
Just days ago, Peggy lashed out again with another attack, this time directed at one of the producers who was preparing for tonight's live event.
Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm alright.
Did you look directly into her eyes?
Dude, that's what I was doing. I know this sounds ridiculous, but I was like, I want to see her blink. And so I'm staring at her eyes, and I'm like, oh my god, my nose is running. And I put my hand up to my nose, and I'm like, it's blood.
You know what just happened? I walked into Peggy's room, and I looked her in the eyes, and I said, your daughter is a whore. And I swear to God, my nose just started to bleed.
You should not have that doll in this place.
No. Peggy, that room was very intense. That room, as you could see in that video, it had a little wall in front of it, and there was that little thing rocking next to it. When you walked in, that's what you saw, and that's what I was staring at, was the doll. And then I moved over to Peggy once I got a little closer, but not quite in front of her yet. But once you got there, it was like walking into a wall of heat, but there was no heat. Like, they had the house at a temperature of about 74, 75. I noticed that throughout the entire house had temperature gauges, and that's what I was reading. And it felt very heavy. And I made a joke outside that I was going to stare at her right here, so that way I'm not staring at her eyes necessarily, but I'm staring at her. And once I got over to her, and I was still not quite in front of her, at this point I was in front of the doll, shaking like that. I immediately, once I looked at her, started to look at her, but I got in front of that doll, I immediately looked down. Because, like, I just felt like it just got even more intense. It got harder to breathe. And I feel like nothing truly happened because I was wearing my rosary. But that's why I felt heavy, because I did have that on, and, you know, it was the good one, so it was over my chest right here, and it felt heavy. When I got in front of her, it was just like literally, like, that of heaviness over half of my body until I left. Actually, until I said, goodbye, Peggy, because you're supposed to say goodbye, Peggy. So once I said goodbye, Peggy, that went away, and I walked outside, but I had to go like that and just breathe again, because Peggy was intense. I'm not gonna lie, Peggy was, in my opinion, one of the realest ones. There was the Devil's Rocking Chair, but that one, to me, I don't know if it, I mean, I completely believe in that chair. When you opened it up, because we were first in the room and it was closed, and then they opened it up, and as she left, and once that happened, it felt like a ball of air hitting you, but there was no heat, and it was just all there. But I mean, at that moment I got a little lightheaded, but I was still cool. I wasn't able to, you know, they were doing two at a time, and I still had quite some time, so I was just looking down. But then once I got in front of the chair, it was heavy. It's not as heavy as Peggy. Like, I'm telling you, Peggy was on another level. And again, I don't know. You gotta try it out for yourself. It was really cool. It was really creepy. But Peggy was the real deal. That porcelain doll.